I'm going to share the most traumatic, painful, significant, and just fucked up circumstance I was in throughout my 20s. This episode is for anybody that has lost a parent to alcoholism, potentially feels they might lose their parent to alcoholism. You might be in love or attached or in a relationship with someone that's an addict, or you might have lost that person. I would like to share my experience now 13 years on, because I feel strong and confident to be able to reflect back in that period of my life, going through that situation, and I've used it to kind of help shape me in a positive way. The very reason I'm doing this podcast is because conversation and the lack of it was a huge contribution to the fact that she didn't beat her alcoholism. 13 years ago, taboo topics were very present. We didn't have social media, and we didn't have these, massive in-depth conversations with one another, and we weren't able to connect in the way that we do now. And this is one of the biggest regrets, that my mum can't see the society that we're in today. And I feel that had she been around today, she might have beaten the thing that robbed us of her wonderfulness. I lost my mum long before she actually died, because that's how you feel when you are connected and in a relationship with an addict. You feel like they disappear and you can't see them, and they are just immersed in this changing of themselves, their emotions, the reliance on a substance, and you just lose them. Now, although we live in a society where conversation is massive and we're all talking and we're all hearing, the fact is it's very hard to share things about this type of topic, because we will always try and protect the privacy of our loved ones. So I feel like I'm in a position now to share and help people that perhaps can't talk so openly about their feelings and connections to someone that's addicted to alcohol. It's really fucking difficult. So I have my little book of notes and what I want to say, and hopefully you're going to tune into the whole episode. And I ask that you send this to someone that you feel might need to hear the experience of someone that lost someone to alcoholism and survived, and as reflecting on it to such an extent that she feels strong because of it. Now, just to give you a little brief backstory, I was probably 18 when I realised there was something a little bit fishy going on with my mum's drinking of wine. She never took spirits in her life. She very much only had white wine or red wine. She was an incredibly charismatic and vivacious woman that would have multiple people around her. She was an extrovert like me, let's say. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that she didn't have enough people around her because she was a single mom. And 13 years ago, single moms, they didn't get the support that a single mom might have now. Now, I'm not single now. I am a solo parent. I have been a solo parent for over 10 years. And one of my biggest fears when I lost her was that I was going to go down a similar road to my mom, because we were so similar. She was a fashion designer. She had her own business. High street stores didn't exist back in the day, and she would design clothes, sell them, trek around the country, selling them to different independent stores. That was something I was really proud of about my mom. So it's good for me to start off on a positive, because when I look back and I think about my mom, those are the things that I want to remember. Not how she died or how it just went completely down south. She is the reason that I do a job I absolutely adore, which is sign language interpreter. And it was very random. And I remember people used to ask me, what does your mum do for a living? And I'd say, fashion designer. And I'd be so proud. And all the other stuff, the fact that we were broke, we could barely afford to eat sometimes, the fact that she was crazy and there was so much arguments in my family and, just typical shit that happens when you're from a single parent family. When I said that she was a fashion designer, I was just full of pride. Now, when I was around 18, obviously I'd drank some alcohol myself, so I understood it a little bit more. And then I started to realise that actually my mum, she wasn't as together as everyone thought she was. She was the hub, let's say, for all the women and the wives to go to when they wanted to complain about their husband, and she would have a glass of wine ready for them waiting. Safe to say, I've pretty much adopted that similar path with my friends, I would say, as a solo parent. There's no man in this house, so it's kind of a safe space for any women to come. But I don't use wine as the incentive as my mum might have. I will cook. I would say that what we don't realise when it comes to alcohol is that we all process alcohol differently. So whoever you are thinking of in terms of how they have a relationship with alcohol, it's going to be dependent on so many facts that we don't consider, such as sugar, the sugar in the drink. I used to work in a nightclub and I used to see girls completely off their face, bent over in agony. And I'd be like, they're not drunk, but they're really struggling. And I feel that the amount of syrup that goes into these fancy cocktails can be really detrimental to how we then process the alcohol. And we don't really think about that, because as soon as we've got alcohol in our system, we're disconnected with our body. So when our belly's going, hello, you're about to give me diabetes, we've just completely switched off. So for me, the fact that she drank wine was a big contribution to the fact that it happened so quickly. I would say the process was as fast as 5 years in terms of how she went from 0 to 100. And 5 years isn't a long time. She never accepted that she was an alcoholic to the day she died. And obviously partly for that reason is because it was so shameful in those times. So anyone that's listening, I just want to say that your number one battle is going to be accepting that you have a bad relationship with alcohol. And anybody that says that to me today, I just want to absolutely pick them up, put them on my shoulders and run down the street going, you're my freaking hero. The fact that she couldn't do that, and then there's people that are doing that today, it fills me with so much joy that people can do that, because that is extremely brave, and you should be really proud of yourself if you're someone that has said, I've not got a healthy relationship with alcohol, because we live in a world where everyone just wants to pretend, and we shouldn't pretend. We should just be real. So on top of the fact that sugar is something often ignored during alcohol addictions, I think we should talk about the fact that when we drink, we can maybe have a kind of version of ourselves that come to life. Basically, the limiting beliefs that we have in ourselves can get washed away, and our self-esteem and our confidence grows. And when that version of ourselves interacts with the world, it's very easy to think that the world prefers that version of you. So with my mum, I noticed that I think because she was such an outgoing person, when she couldn't be outgoing, she might have had a glass of wine, and that just helped her, in her mind, be herself. So therefore, she felt like she needed alcohol to be herself. And what we need to do, because I've, for the life of me, racked my brains and thought, what would I do differently? What would I do in order to help my mum and help her survive and beat this? And I think we don't have a responsibility, but if we can maybe adjust how we respond to someone who does drink, that, oh, go on, you're so much more fun when you have alcohol. Go on, have one, I'm having one. And just recognize that those comments and those thought processes can really build up over the years. And it's when that person might experience something really horrific in their life, and then they immediately lean on the crutch that they think they need to be themselves again. So if you're someone that has said to another person, it's so fun when you're drunk. Oh my God, I love going out and getting drunk. That's normal. We've all said it. I've said it. And I definitely am really fun when I have a drink. My relationship with alcohol is really good. I know when to stop. And there's no way in hell, if I'm empty or I'm low energy and I'm down, that I'm going to drink a depressant and drink alcohol to help me feel better. Those days are done. I know the impact of what that can have on you. But also, if somebody is drinking, I'm not going to then reinforce that mindset that they are a more enjoyable and palatable person when they've had a drink, because that can be very damaging. So with my mum, 3 things occurred during a 1-year period, which I think then led her to really lean into alcohol. It was having teenage girls. I have teenage girls. I'm suddenly understanding how that was traumatic for her. Her dad died and she became bankrupt, and the fashion business that she'd been doing for 10 years, she had to hold her hands up and say, okay, no more. It's not profiting, and she went bankrupt. So 3 things that were huge and were related to her identity and who she was as a person just went tits up over a 1-year period. So it was through that time that she started drinking heavily. And because we were out the house, we were older, we were teenagers, we weren't around much. Again, it kind of gave her this excuse and this freedom to drink and not take accountability for how much she was drinking. I don't just want to waffle on about what just happened to me and to my mom. I want to share how I've grown and how you might be feeling today as someone that's connected to someone that's an alcoholic or lost someone that's an alcoholic. There's a reason that they call this the family disease, and that's because you're the sober one feeling and sitting in the emotions, and the person that's drunk is actually numbing themselves. Whereas this is impacting you just as much as it's impacting them. And it's okay to feel like you're a victim in this scenario, because you are. That being said, it's not your fault as well. If there's one thing you can take away from this episode, it's never your fault. Feelings of guilt, similar to when you lose someone with suicide, and having to forgive yourself, is something that you will process for probably the rest of your life, and you'll get better at it. You will get better at it, because fundamentally you've got to know that everyone's responsible for themselves, and that means family members. We can be a supportive family, but ultimately our kids, our parents, they're all responsible for gaining the happiness and health and contentment in themselves. You are not able to give that to someone, and you have to forgive yourself and stop trying to give that to that person, because that is their journey and it is not your journey. You are not a product of their choices. You can sit there and be like, I should have done this, I should have got into rehab, I should have done this. But the fact is, you're limited in what you can do. And fundamentally, we're all responsible for ourselves. If there's one thing I wish I'd done differently, it was go to the Al-Anon meetings that are provided for family members. If you are someone that is dealing with these types of circumstances and you feel yourself kind of just at a loss, please go and seek help for yourself. Spend less energy forcing help onto the person that is addicted, and go and get help for yourself, because you will be damaged through this process. And if you don't, then it's just going to continue, and the family disease just spreads. we have to reflect on how these situations shape us and impact us. And the bottom line is, when you better yourself and you get the support poured into you, it will allow you to regulate your emotions more and control how you react to that person. I didn't have many people around me helping me at all. I was just constantly giving and I was on empty. So my reactions to my mum were not the best. When you can control your reactions to the person that's struggling with the addiction, you're then going to help how they react to you. And when you're so well connected to that person, you're going to almost be a mirror. By looking at you, they're seeing themselves, because they're seeing the love you have for them and also the disappointment you're having in them and the fear that you carry because of their choices. So all that then does is make them experience a negative emotion that then makes them go and drink. So it's almost like this roundabout of negative emotions that can't be stopped because they're done out of love and fear. So if you can pour into yourself and be able to regulate that so that you can get rid of that fear and that disappointment and just show them nothing but pure love from an authentic place, it's going to then help how they react to you and hopefully slow down their drinking. I remember thinking that I was to blame because I didn't give my mum enough time, and that maybe, you know, she was lonely and she drank and I should have been around more. Now, I had to make a choice in the end for my daughter's sake and for my sake, because being in that environment was having a massive effect on my ability to be a mum. Fundamentally, you have to detach from things that are going to hurt you. So it is not your fault that you've had to detach and walk away from someone that isn't helping themselves. You know, it's one thing supporting someone through a mental health illness, but it's another thing supporting someone through a mental health illness that will not help themselves or will not receive help. You can't give it all, and you can't continue to hurt yourself as a result of them not accepting where they are in their life. I wish I'd spent more time with her, distracting her from herself. I wish we'd found something that we both enjoyed and that I helped her find a new hobby or a new interest that just floated about a little bit, you know. Obviously, life's just gotten even more busier now. So it is hard to not blame yourselves when you think, oh, I've got to spend more time with that person. And that's a difficult one. I'm not going to lie, that is difficult. But if you can just encourage that person to do other things and enjoy other things. Fitness is definitely one that has helped me, and I become addicted to that. If we have addicted family members, then it's likely we have addictive characteristics ourselves, and we can be addicted to healthy things just as much as we can be addicted to unhealthy things. I have called this podcast The Inadequate Mother because fundamentally that is why she drank. She felt inadequate. She felt like she didn't live up to the expectations that exist in today's society. As much as I love the fact that we're all connecting and talking more now on social media, you've got the bad side that we live in a comparative world a lot more now, and we feel like we need to meet expectations. But that can be controlled, because you can be in control of what you're absorbing. You can be in control of who you're following. And if you notice that your loved one is following someone that isn't making them feel good, call them out on it. Tell them, let's make sure that you feel good about yourself. Let's help you feel better about yourself. So I'm going to share with you some of the limited feelings and limited beliefs and really negative thoughts that I had to practice, like going to the gym. It's just a muscle. You practice it daily and you try and remove them. I remember not long after she died, I felt like the fact that she hadn't fought like I would have fought meant that she didn't love me enough, or I wasn't worthy enough to have her fight. Because for me to be a mom, to reflect on if I had an issue, like I don't think there wouldn't be anything I wouldn't do to try and beat that for the sake of my kids. So the fact that she didn't do that made me feel less significant to her and less loved. This is something that just can't live in you. You have to remove that feeling. Them not surviving something is not a reflection of you as a person and shouldn't come down to a reflection of the love they had for you, because ultimately it is a mental health disability. It is a muscle, the brain, that is sprained in a way that they are not functioning to be able to love and to care for you the way that they truly do. And I have realised my mum didn't not love me enough. She just was sprained in the brain to such an extent that she wasn't actively being able to walk and choose love. Another negative thought is, if they're weak, I'm going to be weak. I'm so connected to them and their weakness is going to make me weak, or I'm going to soon grow up to be exactly the same as this person, weak. So I kind of shaped myself to be this superhero, strong woman. And realistically, I overdid it. And I am massively codependent now because I had to be this saviour. I had to be this superhero woman. And that wasn't coming from a place of authenticity. That was coming from a place of fear. I don't think it's good for us to move in a place of fear. If you feel weak because your parent has been weak, know that you are not a product of them. I remember standing in the funeral service and I had to do my mum's eulogy. And as a 25-year-old girl, that was a big thing. That was huge. And I remember saying at the end, my mum's legacy is going to live on, because basically I'm going to be a motherfucking success. I'm going to be every bit of an amazing woman that I believe my mum was. And it's not going to be despite her. It's going to be because of her. Because I know everyone was watching. Everyone was thinking, what's going to happen to this 25-year-old that's a young mom? You know, what's going to happen to her? Is she just going to fall apart? And I could see people watching, and I was determined to prove that my mom wasn't the alcoholic that died. My mom was this amazing person that raised me to be me, and I was going to be me because of her. I think fundamentally, when a situation happens to you that fills you with loads of questions, don't ever ignore the questions. Now, I'm not a particularly religious person or a spiritual person. Well, I am actually. I probably am very spiritual, but I believe that things that happen to us that give us questions are really important. They're almost like gifts. And if you ignore them, those questions, and you don't seek answers, you're almost limiting your potential growth that circumstance or that gift has given you. Because hardship will benefit you if you hold on to them questions and that you find those answers. And those answers will not come to you quickly. They will not be like, oh, I've just got to do this, I've just got to do that. I was very much like that. I went into churches looking for answers. I went partying and drinking looking for answers. I've been yoga retreats. I've studied various different psychology courses. And fundamentally, a lot of the answers are all the same. They're just packaged a different way. And you've just got to work out what your answers are and what you need to heal. I can't give you those answers. Those answers live within you. And all I can say is don't ignore the questions that live within you because of a hardship or a trauma that you've experienced. Hold those questions. Just live with the question and wait for the answer. Finally, I think I'd be stupid to not thoroughly encourage anyone who's been through similar circumstances to go and get a book called Codependency No More. How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself. Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. It offers guidance to really understand how you're wired through these experiences and how you can detach in a way that's healthy and allow your future relationships to get healthier. Now, on the Inadequate Mother podcast. This is something I've very much needed in my years of transitioning into mother to a child to now an adult child. And it's something I've needed to understand in my relationships, having always formed trauma bonds. And yeah, I just can't recommend this enough, guys. So I hope that you got something from this podcast. I hope it wasn't too intense. Please comment, DM me, get at me at Hayley Brown & Co on my Instagram, and let me know the things that you want to discuss. Let me know your experiences, and I hopefully can be some kind of agony aunt that can just share and reflect with you, because I know it's hard talking about these things with people that know your family and you need to protect their privacy. So please feel free to get in touch and let's chat, because this is really important.